Hi everyone. We are live on Facebook. It's been a little while. Happy New Year. We'll let folks jump on and jump in and get this show on the road. Have an interesting episode for you today. Rich, Happy New Year. Kyle, Happy New Year. Haven't seen the two of you
Here.
visually. Um, it's also Merry Christmas. We haven't been on since Christmas as well, and it's as a matter of fact, a little tidbit people don't know. Our family celebrates it. Today's actually New Year's Eve under the old calendar, and I mentioned it to Richard, and he was like, "I don't know what the hell that is," but it's a really, really like
No, you said the Julian calendar. I'm used to Gregorian calendar and stuff like that. I didn't know this was like whatever. So
right. Obviously, there's something missing on this episode. David cannot join us, but he had a quick item to take care of, and we will miss him. But he was actually, Kyle, looking forward to talking to you as the two of you know each other. But anyways, I want to welcome to our episode Kyle, aka Vino Cholakian, Bay Area resident, a fellow Armenian activist, someone that goes to St. John with me, and he's also a food and wine uh, connoisseur, critic, influencer. We could use that tagline. Slowly growing. We connected. Kyle and I originally connected, believe it or not through St. John, but through the wine network. We're actually together. We started with a group of good individuals, started a wine as foundation. What do we call it? It's an association, right? It's an Armenian Gastronomical Association. You can, a little shameless plug is here. We can, the handle is Wine and Dine, right?
Vine and Dine, and it's Vine Ndine.
Yes, it's an amazing little kind of co-op of very, very smart and passionate pro-Armenian winemakers and wine influencers. And yeah, anyway, so Kyle and I are involved in it. But we have Kyle here today is because Kyle also went on a kind of a mission, a trip to Armenia. You just recently came back, right, on the 6th, I believe, right?
Yep, a long journey.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we obviously, when you came back, I was like, dude, I want to talk to you. I want to see, because while you were there, we were kind of talking, right? What happened? How was your trip? But kind of wanted to like open it up to the wider. Welcome, Kyle. Thank you for joining us. Why did you go to Armenia and Artsakh? Essentially, what was the idea behind your trip?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I just felt very helpless throughout the whole war. Just waking up every day to tragic news, feeling a sense of helplessness, not really seeing a way to directly impact what was going on the ground. And there wasn't really a way for any of us at the end of the day, in a sense. Once it started, that work needed to be done probably long before. But, when the agreement was signed November 8th, 9th, I just really wanted to go back and help in any way I could. I felt like I could utilize my personal network, the fundraise, and directly distribute funds and aid there on the ground. I have a lot of good friends that are locals that I've made over the years. And, for example, one of them, their son lost his leg and needed physical therapy, prosthetic, all of that. And I just felt like it would be best for me to go back and distribute aid and help myself
directly, right? So be as grassroots as possible, because from our frustration here, and by the way, Richard, we're fundraising, right? We always fundraise in this show. Today it's the AGBU Artsakh Relief Fund. So if you're watching right now, you can donate. They are doing an amazing job at doing a fund drive to help the families of the displaced people. But you felt like, yes, after the whole like debacle of the November 9th, that the best way to kind of, give aid and actually see what's going on is by being there yourself, correct?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I want to give you a shout out and a thank you because also as you are going, a friend of mine, Meredi, reached out saying that, hey, we need a what do you call? We needed these. I believe these are oxygen meters, right? So all sorts of things were happening around the time that you were leaving, where literally necessities and aids weren't like coming into Armenia the way that we would hope it would. And it's a little bit of a disheveled story that we don't need to get into. But anyways, you're able to pick up those items, you're able to deliver, and thank you for that because literally as we speak, there are people getting aid through whatever you did, however small that may be. So that's amazing, and I thank you for taking it. But then you land in, yes, Richard.
I was just going to say, what I'm hearing from you, Kyle, echoes what I know and I think many people felt, which was the helplessness and the drive. Like many of us are called to do something, and most of the time it's hard to manifest that. And so to actually travel and be able to have your boots on the ground and actually help people is just brilliant. And so, on behalf of all of our listeners, I just wanted to thank you even for doing it. But I think, you actually executing that, gives many of us the hope that we could do something similar. And I think that's an important thing to acknowledge. So thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like initially, I was thinking, oh, maybe this won't be the best time to go. Maybe when the weather's better, COVID vaccines been distributed, stuff like that. That'd actually be the best time. But then I talked to a few people there, and they said, well, actually, that's what everyone's saying. So no one's really coming.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, so no one's actually going. And I say no one, like, there obviously are a lot of people that are, but compared to what the diaspora's potential is, it was, not that many. So I felt like if I won't do it, someone else really isn't going to do it. So why not?
It's interesting that you say that because I think that there's something in human nature that makes us want, maybe have the impetus to want to do something. But I don't know what the specific statistics are, but there's plenty of documentation about the idea that when people believe that other people can join in and do something, they won't do it because they assume that, well, someone else is going to take care of that, right?
Yeah.
But when you know that you are the one who can do something, most of the time, that's when things get done. And so I think that, if I would encourage the rest of us in the diaspora, it would be to disregard the idea that other people are going to help, and we have to be the one.
And essentially that the way that things kind of shattered after November 9th, we were so unified, and now like a lot of people don't know. But actually, that's what I'm going to jump into. Tell us. So you land in Yerevan. Describe us the journey. What are your feelings, thoughts, and emotions? Obviously, COVID's on your mind, but also war, post-war trauma, and all that. Walk us through. So you went from Yerevan, and then you started making your journey afterwards. Just describe your trip in brief.
Yeah, I touched base actually with a local news anchor here, Ella Sogomonian, nice. And her father and brother and sister live in Yerevan, and I got in touch with them. They're housing an Artsakh family there from Keljabar. So they actually picked me up at the airport, and I met like the first family I helped like right then and there. That was very nice. They brought me to a family friend's apartment from the Bay Area. So I was able to stay there. Got my bearings straight, and then basically like that next day started seeing families from a list my friend from Shushi had of basically his relatives and close friends that needed assistance. Started, my good friend is the national chess champion of Armenia, Maria Gevorgian. She's been on the ground helping with this organization. I think it's Miasin or One Miasin.
Miasin, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So she already had experience kind of visiting families, and her and I and her friend went to about 2 or 3 families that first day. I had toys from a very nice family from Burlingame, the Kebranians. They own a toy and candy shop. They gave me a lot of toys to bring. So started distributing kind of just direct money and Christmas toys for the kids. Very difficult actually to go, because first family I went to, the father I believe was killed, and then he had 5 or 6 very young kids left over. I shouldn't even say left over, but widowed and fatherless, and they're living in a shelter basically with their grandma, uncle, aunt. So like 9, 10 people in this really tiny room, and it was very sobering.
Kyle,
first day.
I can imagine.
Thanks for sharing this. I'm actually going to kind of peep into a little bit of the future of when you see these people, right? When you, like, obviously right now we're all just trying to like clog up the wounds and plug in the holes and apply bandages to the wounds, right? Did you ever have the ability to ask like what might be their next moves? Because that is kind of important. You know, it's or conversations never could get there because we're in such a early stage of grieving and any thoughts on that? Did you, because as somebody like, you know, 6 kids, single mother, what can we life a future filled with something that other than just, I don't know, despair and trying to leave, you know what I mean? Or the conversations were not there at that point?
I mean, it was very heavy. I felt like I was providing maybe like a good day or 2, but what stuck with me is, you know, at most this will help for a month or 2, the aid. And you know, their life is completely up in flux, and it just made me very sad that, you know, they had probably a very simple, nice life in Shushi, Hadrut. You know, they had a home, you know, land to farm, you know, space, and now they're cramped in a shelter in Yerevan where they're really not even from. I mean, that might not even, it's not like, it's like it's Armenia, but that's not where they're from, and they don't know anyone there, and yeah, very sad, and that's what makes me think about like the politics behind it and the organization economically of the diaspora, because like you said, it's kind of like, you know, you're like a firefighter, and there's thousands of fires starting a day. You know, let's stop the fires from happening more than just putting out the fires. That's kind of what started coming through my head.
Thank you. Again, for those that just joined kind of halfway through, we're talking to Kyle of Vino Cholakian. He just recently came back from a trip to Artsakh and Yerevan, and we're kind of discussing on what was that experience like. Kyle, pivoting forward. So then, before we move on to Artsakh, you have been to Armenia. What was the last time before this trip you were there?
May, June 2019 was the last time I was there, but I'd been there for basically a year with Birthright Armenia and also on my own. So I've spent a substantial amount of time in Armenia, Artsakh.
What was your kind of, in Yerevan in particular, did you feel like, was there a comparison those 2 times? What were some you know, how was Yerevan now versus Yerevan when you left in the May of 18?
It felt like a tale of 2 cities. Like when I first arrived, it seemed like people were pretty depressed just at first glance. But then as you went into more Kentron, you know, Saryan Street kind of areas, seemed kind of like no pandemic, no war, business as usual, people out at bars, hanging out. But then as you went to the Mars, where the shelters really are, and a lot of families were living, very depressed. extremely depressed, if we're being honest. Very dire conditions, it seemed like, for most people. It's cold. Almost all the places I went to had very little heating. There's not, they didn't really have kitchens,
Excellent segue. The AGBU fund that we're fundraising for right now, the drive is for heaters for the displaced families. It's a very, very interesting particular angle that AGBU is trying to facilitate.
That's great.
And as a matter of fact, I think like already they're earmarked, the financing has been done for to get the heaters there. They're just trying to recoup their expenses.
Perfect.
For those of you that are joining us, just hit the donate button, and you can rest assured that money will go to the AGBU fund to collect some heaters. Kyle, Rich, sorry, if you had something to say, I have a follow-up.
No, I was just going to say, I look at this often from an emotional or perspective, and sometimes I move into the pragmatic. So the way I'm registering this is, it's winter and people are cold, and this is not this isn't like an equatorial environment. We're talking about in the mountains, in the highlands, and so it can't be easy. And we're talking about wood-fired stoves and gas stoves, I'm assuming, most of the time. And so the need that these people must be just incredible. And when you're talking about visiting these families with small children left behind, with dead parents, or at least a dead father, or I can't imagine that even if you're trying to bring them a little bit of joy and a little bit of light, that any of that could have been easy at all. Like, I just can't imagine any of it.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I echo what Richard said. My follow-up, I guess, to many of my follow-ups, we can talk forever about what your experience there is. Did you feel a sense, and I promise we're going to segue into Artsakh, because that's my curiosity is the most, but this is already an Artsakh story because all the displaced people are from that region. Did you feel a sense of, and we can be as honest as possible, that this is something that we're doing here from the diaspora, we're going to plug up the hole, but there is assistance from the government on the ground? What was your understanding, if you were able to have the conversations and like, hey, is there help on the way from a systemic point of view?
I don't want to feed into like conspiracy theories. I just want to speak on what I saw.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally, I didn't see a lot. Granted, these families were in homes, so that means that someone had given it to them, or there had been that sort of infrastructure. Speaking to a lot of them, they said they had gone very bare minimum, and these are proud people. They really didn't want to accept my help that much. They were almost ashamed, most of them, when I would bring things. The kids obviously like the gifts, but it's not easy. I do know when I was there that 1,000 Dram, the insurance fund for the defense and the wounded soldiers, they announced kind of their payment plan. And from what I saw, that seemed like, it's not amazing, but it's standard, and it will help. And people said that they were in touch with them about that. So speaking of 1,000 Dram, it seems like they were doing their job, and that at least some of what we all donated to Armenia Fund, Hina Dram, was going towards that and helping people, or would start helping people soon. That's my understanding.
All right, thank you for that. But then kind of after you were in Yerevan, you got on the road to Artsakh, right? Describe your journey. So first of all, from Yerevan, you went where? Well, where was your next kind of stay?
So from Yerevan, I went with two Armenian Americans, kind of doing something similar as me, and they were in contact with Kurigs, and they provided us a driver from Stepanakert who was going back and forth, and we drove with him. I couldn't really understand a lot of what he was saying, but he was very angry, the whole ride and just telling us stories. I believe he'd lost his home. I believe he'd lost family members and friends, and just the whole ride, he was just very angry about the situation, and he was not happy, and I felt really bad. We approached Lachin corridor after going through Goris. It was very interesting because there's not a lot of clarity right now about how to get your visa and or what you need. I mean, it's not really like it's a functioning state. It's an unrecognized sliver of a former unrecognized state. So we spent a good amount of time at the border with the Russian and some Armenian troops going over our passports. And it seemed like you're not really supposed to go there unless you're an Armenian citizen. But we really emphasize that they're for humanitarian purposes. We all have Armenian last names, and we had toys and things with us. So they were okay, and they let us through.
So that's a good question. Something that was on my mind. Are you under the impression that, well, first of all, I don't have an Armenian last name. Are you under the impression that at some point this access to Artsakh will be cut off to Armenians only?
I have no idea. I don't assume that you will be able to go on a tourist visa anytime soon. I don't know how you'll get in other than humanitarian purposes if you're not an Artsakh, or maybe even a media pass as a unless you're an Artsakh Armenia resident.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Well, I mean, that's, this is also new and so fresh. So a couple things. No wonder he was angry. No wonder he was frustrated. No wonder he probably, I'd be, if I had just been through that, I would tell as many people as I could, as loudly as I could, as often as I could. So yeah. I would be in the same spot. As for the condition of Lachin and Goris and like, at least, moving through that area, yeah, that's not surprising to me that it would be, in a questionable condition because, obviously from what you just, it's an unrecognized. But because the ink isn't dry and the paint isn't dry yet, so to speak, I can't imagine that anybody could get through there. Right.
Yeah, and for security purposes, I respect them vetting us. I mean, who knows? We could be someone else other than we say. I mean,
right.
It's a tense situation. So that actually gives me some hope that there is security there if they're going to be that stringent.
So speaking of that, good segue question is, you had mentioned, and we talked about this, right? Because as you were there, we are talking about all the nightmares that are happening with Sunik as well, right? About the demarcation and the land grab. And so you're going into Lachin, right? From what we know here from, the whatever, thousands of miles away, Lachin literally is the corridor with the road and that's it, right? Is that what you experienced? Is that what you saw? And how does that look essentially? And while you're driving, are the Azeris 5 feet away? Like, because technically they're both on the south side of the corridor and the north side of the corridor. Did you see any of that, or were they not stationed there just as of yet?
Well, I mean, if you go there, the Lachin corridor, it's very mountainous, and that road's the only, and then Berdzor's really the only habitable area. The rest is just kind of mountainous terrain. Mm-hmm. I didn't see any Azeris until we got close to Shushi. And I don't really know where they would be. I mean, maybe there's snipers posted up on ridges, but for my impression, it seemed like there really aren't any Azeris in that area, nor would they really have a reason. I mean, the Russians are there too, so I don't know what they would do. But yeah, as we approached Shushi, I mean, we went through Berdzor, and it's pretty destroyed. You could see the damage. I don't think anyone's really there. Maybe there's 10 or 15 people there. I don't know. Seemed like a ghost town. And then we approached Shushi, and there were multiple checkpoints, which again was, good. It's good that they're doing that. And then when we got to Shushi, very sad but realistic sight. It's not Shushi, it's Susa in Azeri header, and they have the Turkish and Azeri flags hanging from invisible sight.
Did you want to show that? Because remember, we have some pictures to show.
Yes, let's do that.
So yeah, why don't we just talk through some of these pictures? And this is the one that you're talking about. Instead of Shushi, it's now Susa.
Yeah.
And now we have a Turkish flag in addition to the Azeri colors. Yeah. So that in and of itself, I mean, I just like to say this shot alone should be something that helps demystify to the world if Turkey was involved in this. Obviously, they were for most of us that we know, but the extent to which has been minimized. But to see it like this with the flag amidst their colors is just heartbreaking.
And actually, I know exactly where that photo is. So it's really, really heart-wrenching for me to see that, having been there. So Kyle, essentially, when you drive that road, right, to go to Stepanakert, you literally pass by Shushi, as we say it, the way that it's supposed to be said. The turn to the turn to Shushi is essentially blocked off, right?
Yeah, it's blocked off. There's 2 checkpoints, or maybe, I don't know, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. You can't get there. You have to go left down the mountain or down the hill.
Into
yeah, it was very hard for me because I've spent a lot of time in Shushi. Spent about 2-3 weeks there, and I hiked through the Hunot Canyon, and I actually went unobstructed through that whole area, just hiking for a day or 2. One of the most peaceful places I felt like I've ever been. And that was the last time I saw it. And the next time I go, there's Turkish flag, desecration. In that picture, you can see the Azeri graffiti all over the bottom of that. That's kind of how you can tell the Azeris have touched something and it wasn't Armenians just burning it. They just graffitied the hell out of it. So that was
the bottom. Yeah.
Very tough sight for me to see. Same time, it's kind of like adrenaline is peaking because there's tanks and, I'm seeing Azeri troops, I'm seeing Russian troops. So it's
Rich, what was the next photo? If
we can go either direction. We can go to there.
No. Let me see. So then you that's Dadivank. Okay. Let's go again. Yeah. So then you enter Stepanakert, right? This is the capital, right? The main city of Artsakh. And what's your story there? How are you seeing, navigating, experiencing let's concentrate on the Artsakh we have, right? What we still have, what we can still maintain. What's your experience there like?
My friend's family was largely still there, and they picked me up and they took me to they're from Shushi, but they had kind of displaced people housing, and they took me there. We had like a dinner. It was a very small apartment, basically a studio apartment. At first I was kind of like curious because it seemed like a lot of things appeared normal. I was near the bus station. People were taking the marshukas and buses. Lots of foot traffic. A lot of foot traffic, actually. I mean, compared to last time I went, it seemed about like the same in terms of people walking around. So yeah, this is basically like where the hotel and Capitol building are, and as you can see,
Yeah.
pretty calm. But when you come in, there's those sites like the hospital, which was shelled, and that was I wouldn't say largely destroyed, but large parts of it were clearly destroyed and bombed. So that was disconcerting to see.
You talking about here?
No, actually, this is my friend was able to go to the area of Hadrut we still have, and this was basically a building there that he was able to capture, and you see a lot of this in Stepanakert, not like everywhere, but you would see stuff like this just going on your daily walk or drive.
So speaking of Hadrut and adjoining areas, were you able to leave Stepanakert and kind of not explore, but continue your journey throughout Artsakh outside of Stepanakert? And you can also briefly jump into what you did in Stepanakert as well. Like, was it a similar thing? Were you kind of visiting with families, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I wasn't able to really leave other than going to Dadibank. I went on the outskirts of town to visit two families. I don't know if they were technically within the city limits, but they're in the general region, maybe 15-minute drive from downtown. And basically when I got there, I was with this family, and they were kind of like my liaison consigliere, because I don't speak Artsakh Armenian at all. I mean, I speak some Eastern Armenian, but Artsakh Karabakh dialect is difficult.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. It's beautiful, but it's also a little bit unrecognizable to some.
Yeah.
So then you made the journey to Dadivank, right? The incredibly vulnerable, what do you call it, monastic complex that everybody heard of. I've been to. It's single most important spiritual spot for me in all of Armenian XYZ, what do you call it, Armenian land. And here we are. How did that trip come about? And I think it was part of that famous thing that happened there, right? Where Barkev Serpazan officiated a wedding. Was it around that same time?
I think that was the event. I mean, as you can kind of see, we weren't really allowed to take too many photos, but you can see a peacekeeper right there. And you can kind of see, some, garb in the bottom left. And essentially the Russians don't control anything in the general area other than this church. I mean, it's not within the territory Armenia, Karabakh possesses. It's like 3 miles from the nearest spot. So I had to sign up for a trip to the church, and a couple of buses of us went. We got to like basically the end of Artsakh as we know it now, and the Russians met with Barkev. I guess we had too many people. They weren't expecting this many people, and so basically there was a bus of Russian and Armenian media and then churchgoers, and the Russians basically got into all of our buses to have a few of them with us, and then they had a lead vehicle direct us through there. Before we got to the Azeri checkpoint, they stopped and they went alone. They came back a few minutes later, gave us the heads up to go. Pretty eerie, like 10, 15 minutes going through. You see the Azeri flag, you see the Azeri troops, and you're like, shit.
This is it. This is the real deal.
I mean, this is Azerbaijan now, for all intents and purposes. They have the flag, they have troops, Armenians aren't there. Very weird experience, very weird.
But I'm glad you did it, and it's something that I'm thankful that you did, and actually a little bit jealous of you, because I don't know when I'll be able to do that.
That's what I would say too, is like, I don't know how long that situation is tenable. I mean, it doesn't seem sustainable to me. There's no Armenians really. I mean, there's no Armenians. It's far away from our territory. There's basically just Russians. I don't know why they're even there to some degree. I mean, maybe they would feel aghast as Orthodox Christians to see, a UNESCO heritage site like this ransacked and destroyed. But there's basically, like a little Russian base versus, probably hundreds of Azeri troops surrounding it, if you want to be frank.
So speaking of Russian troops, you had mentioned that you think that these guys are really holding it down, and we got a few more minutes before we let you go. I just want to kind of wrap it up on kind of what did you see in terms of Russian presence. How heavy is it in the region? Talk a little bit about like Russian military versus Armenian military presence throughout your trip, because as you're going to Artsakh, as you're going into Goris, right, where Goris is still in Armenia, for those that unfamiliar with the geography. What was your kind of like on the trip? Did you see more Russian military presence than Armenian military presence? Just point blank question.
Yeah, but I mean, not in Armenia proper necessarily, but within Karabakh, I didn't see any Armenian presence really.
Mm-hmm. What about
exclusively Russian?
What about on the roads in Armenia, in the Sunni province?
I didn't see much military presence. I felt like I saw more military presence, police presence at one protest in Yerevan, in Republic Square. Felt like I saw more people just in that instance than I did my entire drive down to Lachin. I mean, once you get to Lachin, it's very militarized, but
which is very telling if you think about it. What I'm hearing and what my takeaway is that conflict with protests is more important to the governing body than protecting the rest of the homeland.
It seems that way.
I mean, that's what I mean, if it were me, Republic Square would be devoid of military and they would be all at the border.
Yeah, but I would also say that about the Armenian citizenry and the diaspora. I mean, there's tons and tons of people living their life in Yerevan as if nothing's happened. And I don't want to be too critical, like, hey, some of you are in trauma mode. You're trying to escape the reality. I get that. It's tough. But there are also a lot of people that they didn't serve, and they're just going out and about like nothing happened. And that is a group of diasporans too. I mean, I'm not going to call people out, but there's a lot of people there having a good time. I had a good time a few nights because I was very depressed about what I saw, but there was nothing to celebrate. I mean, I didn't do anything on New Year's Eve. What's there to do? Get COVID?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's a depressing situation.
Right.
And that's actually again another question I wanted to ask. And you're right. That's what I'm understanding, is that the tale of two cities that's emerging, right? On the one hand, there's this somber notion of a country, nation, people completely decimated by this attack on all sides, by not just Azerbaijan but also Turkey with Syrian mercenaries, and by the backing and a thumbs up from Pakistan, and I believe Afghanistan at the last minute also gave a little wave to the situation as well. So this entire insanity happens, as well as we may or may not at some point find out what went down on the inside as well, right? Through Armenian what do you call it? Official channels, which this is what we will not speculate. We will talk about this when those receipts are provided to us, and we hope we will see that happen soon. All right, we have 4 more minutes. I want to say this. I want to kind of ask you. So you went, you saw firsthand. You had mentioned something. You said, "Hey, Greg, what the slivering of what we do have is still beautiful. It's still amazing, and we should continue to try to kind of uplift it and prop it up." What do you think we can be doing currently to make sure that that piece of land maintains, and then we can see a possibility of a dadivang, of a shusha back in our hands within the next 10, 20, whatever, I don't care, in the future. But for now, about the place that you saw, the Stepanakert and the adjoining areas, what is your idea of what do we need to do? What does the diaspora need to do? What are the pressing issues?
I think we need to get realistic and start nation building. And that means building a strong Republic of Armenia, not just economically, but diplomatically. There's a lot of things we can be doing. I think recognizing that Russia is the guarantor of our security, stop as much as we can just spreading baseless anti-Russia sentiment just for sake. I mean, sure, you can have your critiques. Definitely not a perfect place. It's not ruled by a perfect governing body. But, you know, if they pull out, you know, Turkey and Azerbaijan will take Artsakh, and they can take Yerevan in 1 or 2 days. That's very clear to me without their help. So until we can get other partners to guarantee success, I think that rhetoric just needs to stop in the diaspora, yes, like ASAP.
Because it's coming from a place of privilege and a place of ignorance and a place of not understanding the real politics.
Yeah, the geopolitics of the region. It's your opinion from a safe, secluded area in the U.S., which, hey, you can have that opinion, but recognize the consequences. Absolutely. I would say the people there are very strong, and they're not going anywhere. I don't suspect the Russians are going to force the Armenians left in Karabakh to leave anytime soon, if they will have a say. So I think just developing the nation state and making sure we develop our military, our economy, and our diplomacy, and that we have leaders that, you know, are competent and are not going to, out of stupidity, incompetence, or even worse things, you know, let the country down. And there's certainly been a lot of that.
Speaking of incompetence, that's a good kind of way to possibly close it off. You are in Yerevan, you are in Stepanakert. What is the sentiment on the ground in your understanding of the support of the current regime in Armenia, the Pashinyan regime? From what you understand, is there still a large sentiment of, yeah, this is our leader, let's keep going with this guy, or is it more like, you know what, you know, he needs to go. We don't see a way forward.
Everyone in Stepanakert hates him and hates his government, and not just him. They hate everyone with the Armenian government. They feel let down, and I don't blame them based on what they've told me and my assessment. I mean, I really think the men of Artsakh and basically the 18, 20-year-olds of Armenia that were already on the front lines somehow held it down for 45 days against kind of incredible odds without basically any support. So I don't blame them one bit, and I feel guilty that we didn't help them more. In Yerevan, almost everyone I talked to was not supportive, but there were a few. I mean, it wasn't like 0%. But talking to people that know others that I didn't speak to, they say that, you know, with social media and, you know, fear of the old regime coming back, there is a sliver of society, whether it's 10, 15, 20%, that are still pro-government because they don't want the old guard coming back. But it's definitely not close to the, you know, the popularity they used to have. It's not even close. And I remember, because I was there when they had the December 2018 election and they got 80%. That's not there.
It's not there. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we start. And lastly, we mentioned that the diaspora can also do its part by visiting, supporting, and also investing, right? Because right now we're going to go through a slump of a lot of desire to leave Armenia. And if we can individually continue to contribute to the economic, at least flattening, if not an uptick, hopefully, obviously, in my opinion, after a new election is convened, because right now we're in a holding pattern. I don't know, like it's a chaotic one, of horrible, detrimental consequences. But do you feel like the diaspora needs to kind of double down on its efforts in terms of investment in Armenia?
Yeah, I do. But for me, I don't know what's going to be left or what will be possible in Sunik. My idea is Yerevan has basically everything it needs. And I think any effort we used to put towards Stepanakert should probably go towards Agapan or Gyumri, Vanadzor, because, you can't really survive that long as a country, in my opinion, just having one city. Yeah. I know there is desire for some people, especially youth, to have another option other than going to Russia or Europe. And I think now is the time to invest, because you're going to see the benefits 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. If you wait 5 years, who knows what's left? Not to be reactionary, but you never know.
All right, Kyle, is there, thanks. Yeah, sorry, Rich, what's up?
So, Kyle, are you amenable to sharing your Instagram if you want people to follow you on the, for your wine or for anything else? If so, I can always either put it up or put it in the link, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, it's just Vino. It's Vino.Cholakian, and I'm part of Vine and Dine. Not.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of a smorgasbord of a lot of things, but
initially when I met Kyle, it was a very strictly wine related, but he's like a true patriot. He went all over the place, especially pretty much doubling down on things about Artsakh once the war started. Rightfully so, man.
We've got the mask. Good job.
Yeah. Kyle, thanks for joining us. If there's anything that we kind of missed out, I'm sure there's a plenty more to talk about, and we can continue the conversation in other means. But any major key items that you might want people to understand, learn? Otherwise, we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I just would say now is the time to keep the pressure up. This is not the time to get complacent.
Yep.
And honestly, as much as I did this kind of individually, there are established organizations with infrastructure and competent people. Let's support those people as much as we can. ARS, COF, AGBU, join an organization, get involved. And, the people of Stepanakert, Artsakh, they are still, amongst all the odds, amidst everything, very optimistic and looking forward to the next chapter. So I think we'd be letting them down if we got too depressed and down on ourselves too long.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a luxury we just don't have. Certainly every, my typical quote for myself and these kinds of situations is that every piston needs a downstroke, because you can't be the whole time. But you have to have a rhythm, and I don't think that we really have the luxury of just wallowing in depression. We have to keep on going, and we have to just keep on kicking ass. So,
Hey, Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time. I'm very informed. It's we see things here from 7 million miles away, but having being able to speak to people that were there, saw things, and you have a very sobering approach to what you saw and witnessed, and what we understand the current geopolitics are. I thank you for taking the time. I know you got an early start tomorrow and you're a little jet lagged. I'm glad that you're safe and sound and back home, and can't wait to kind of hang, chill, and maybe make some plans into the future of what can be done, how we can all help, and how to continue this humanitarian nation building.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, David, wherever you are. I miss you, man. So see you guys.
All right, take care.
Take care, man.
Did I just hit leave? Is that it?
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, hit
that.
leave and you're good to go.
So, yeah, for sure. So on that note, he did mention AGBU, and I just wanted to bring up the idea that, we are fundraising tonight for the AGBU. You can check the link. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple. The AGBU has a long, storied history of helping Armenians in times of need and in times of prosperity as well. And in doing so in a way that is party agnostic. So we're not talking about any particular political or even religious affiliation. They're simply the Armenian General Benevolent Union. Their mission is to help Armenians, and that's what they've been doing since the very beginning. And so I'm just going to leave this up here for a second, just to acknowledge that all you have to do is go to agb.org and you can get a hold of them, or even better, you can click the link that says donate, and you can donate today. So
absolutely. And thank you, Rich. Also, you can also click on the bottom of the screen. It says right there where you can, while you're watching, you can donate, and you can donate through Facebook, and Facebook pumps the money over. I believe we still are at 0. This is hopefully it's not a hashtag 2021 thing, but again, like Kyle mentioned, it's very, very important that we continue putting the pressure, we continue being unified, and we continue supporting as AGBU does and other various orgs that we here at Arach Media have supported. Want to roll into kind of end. We have 7 minutes. We want to be diligent and very sensitive to everyone's time. Our new format is going to be like this currently. It's going to be Wednesdays at 9 o'clock moving forward. Within the major component of our show will be a guest speaker, and then we will kind of wrap it around a few pertinent news items just to kind of make sure that folks are informed. So the most important, I mean, obviously there's one item that is front and center. COVID is still a major issue in Armenia and around the globe, especially here in California where we are. And obviously there was a news of President Sarkisian, that was I believe the first link. President Sarkisian has been tested positive a while back, and currently we saw an update to that report, whereas he is currently battling COVID in a hospital and had to be hospitalized and has double pneumonia. So that obviously is a concerning issue, but we will kind of continue to monitor and see how things progress. Obviously, another very important item that was front and center this week was on Monday, the meeting between Aliyev, Pashinyan, and Putin. That took place on Monday. Everybody was kind of front and center, curious about how that would happen, what would be discussed. Obviously, I don't have much confidence in this current administration. I'm mostly speaking about Armenians. I'm not talking about Putin or Aliyev. Don't ask me there. But the meeting saw it as neither here nor there, just going over the items.
Well, but
in reality, it was a doubling down on the November 9th, right? Yeah, Rich, you're right. Doubling down on the November 9th signing. And the idea was to predominantly speak about a very important, which was Article 8 of the point 8 of the signing of the treaty on November 9th, which was the exchange of POWs, of which there are of Armenians still not being. And Pashinyan mentioned after Aliyev was very happy about the way that the meeting was conducted, because obviously everything's on his terms, that the question of the POWs is still unresolved and unfortunately hasn't been pressed as hard as Armenians around the world and in Armenia would have wanted to. But the largest crux of the conversation was around the unblocking of the transit lines between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, and that whole entire region through the utilization of the Sunni corridor and in Mehri. One silver lining here is that apparently it will possibly benefit somewhat Yerevan as well, because now you'll be able to take an echelon of goods from Yerevan and through Nakhichevan go to Russia, not having to deal with the Georgian-Russian blockade that's currently essentially, for the longest time, Armenia and Russia had zero rail links, and now possibly we will. But again, this is the only silver lining that I could see. Outside of that, we're slowly losing the sovereignty of our nation to this horrendous capitulation by Pashinyan on November 9th. That being said, sorry, Rich, I'm just running through to be very cognizant of time. POWs, front and center. There was a horrible story of, I think I posted the link, of a Armenian family that moved after the blast to Artsakh and is currently missing. And in particular, the wife of the family is of grave concern when you're a woman and in captivity by horrendous people like the Azeri regime. It is very, very, very concerning. And this is the Maral Najarian, who escaped the horrors of what we all witnessed happen to Beirut in a summer of 2020 and relocated to Artsakh and has been in captivity since November 10th, which is a day after ceasefire. That being said,
yeah, but let's also remember that no ceasefire has ever been adhered to. So there's they never viewed it as a ceasefire. We did.
Yes, Rich, absolutely, absolutely. And I believe that one thing, I didn't want to load Kyle into asking him because he's not a political analyst. My question is, what is the moving forward decision with Artsakh? How do we? I mean, we as Armenians, we know what we want to do, right? But now that we have our hands tied, quote unquote, what will be the question around Artsakh? I'm happy to hear from Kyle's viewpoint that the Artsakhi's are very strong-willed individuals, and I know them firsthand. They are, and they're coming back to Artsakh, and they are planning to stay there, as well as it's a slivering of hope, to be honest with you, that the Russians are giving them citizenship of Russia. I know it seems controversial, but that's actually a good thing, because now if Azeris want to attack somebody, they're actually attacking our Russian citizens, right? Which is, in terms of security, I'm all for it.
Right.
There is also a hope that now that, hey, we are talking about, exchange of populations, there's a large sizable Artsakh diaspora in Russia proper, and hopefully those people can now feel free to, come back now that Russian peacekeepers are protecting them. You know what I mean? So
right.
we can, two can play it this way as well.
Right. And so I would actually, like to offer up one, thought to a lot of the people that are Russia bashing and would like, a greater sense of independence for Armenia and Artsakh. Well, that doesn't come overnight. And we got to work for it, and we got to put money, we have to put effort, we have to put energy into it. We can't just, and I don't mean to throw Armenians under the bus, but we have to be critical of ourselves enough to be like self-aware and recognize our own, our own inherent obstacles, which a lot of it is we argue amongst each other more than we need to. And
absolutely.
So when people keep talking about unity, I think they're right. It's important that we, work towards that. But the reality is that without the Russians, we have none of this right now. And that is because of 30 years of dysfunction. That's because of, corruption. We could go, the laundry list of problems are available. But I think moving forward, we're just going to need to work with the Russians, and we're going to need to put a lot of time and energy into supporting the homeland and Artsakh in ways that we just didn't do before.
Absolutely. I'm gonna echo something. You're very correct, and here we are on the 10 o'clock hour now. Yes, there's I believe one of our listeners, Ara, has mentioned this has been all Pashinyan's care about in terms of the need to like reintegrate into the wider region. Yes, but not at the full capitulation of who we are as a nation, as Armenians, as anything. So that's true. I hope I really hope that we will see a day when we can turn a page and rebuilding a nation without this current government at its helm.
No, I
I
agree.
I understand exactly what Kyle was saying in terms of there not much of support for Pashinyan, because even amidst my colleagues and friends, the support of his regime has dwindled to like a 10% mark, maybe.
Right.
We just need to make that next. We need to turn the page to that next chapter, and the diaspora needs to be actively involved in helping Armenia um, humanitarianly and in terms of nation building. And you're right, we must be unified. That being said, let's.
I do have one last bit of good news that we could share,
Please. Excellent.
if you're amenable to that, and
Absolutely.
that is that Armenia is set to receive its first batch of COVID-19 vaccines by mid-February. And if you've been following the situation in Armenia at all over the past year, you know that Armenia has had, well, let's just say, issues with with COVID. And while that can be discussed for hours, let's just say that it's a good thing that they're starting to get some COVID vaccines very soon. So hope is there, and so there's an opportunity for for some relief.
Absolutely. And so I guess we can wrap up on that note here. I want to thank Kyle for joining us. Um, it it gave us did you learn something? I definitely understand. I
Yeah, for
got a
sure. I
big.
think it was really important to get like the idea of the eyes on the ground, and just that I'm a big fan of understanding the temperature in the room. That to me means more than stats. So yeah, I thought it was very informative. Yeah.
Excellent. And we can have Kyle back on in a more of a panel discussion at some point. Thank you everyone for watching us. Again, there's one man missing, David. He couldn't be with us, but I'll check in with him and hopefully we'll have him back next Wednesday. We do have a show prepared for you next Wednesday. The guest is TBD. We have a couple of cool people lined up, but we will make sure that we can send out an email prior to the show and have a amazing, succinct, informative discussion oriented around our guests, which is our kind of the new format, once a week, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. And thank you to those.
9 p.m. Pacific time.
Pacific time, yes, sir. And for those of you that are watching, a little bit of a shout out to those that I know a lot of people watch us at post factum, not live. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for caring. Thanks for informing yourself. And yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to us and we'll be happy to answer. Richard, thank you for co-hosting. It was a pleasure, and I will see you all next Wednesday.
All right. Take care, everyone.